Well, thank you very much. I don't think I have to make the case, really, for what we're here to talk about today. And I can't thank you enough for that really wonderful, wonderful talk for all of us. And thank you to all of you for being here with us today. Thank you to Penny and Bill for allowing us to invade your farm and stand on this farm wagon, which I can tell you takes a certain amount of skill. And I have a lot of skilled people up here with me, so I appreciate all of that. We have farmers with a lot of history, like the Jordan farmers who are more new residents of our states and communities, and we have a lot of other supporters who have come today. I particularly appreciate Warren being here and talking about his operation, making the case for why this is so important for farms in Maine. And I want to also make sure I thank Annie Cheatham, who's here from the New England Farmers Union, Ned Porter from Wholesome Wave, Russell Libby, my good friend from MOFGA, Anisha Switten from Food and Water Watch, and actually I know this is a host of people who represent organizations, advocacy groups, state legislators. I saw Cynthia Dill out there, the state senator for the area, and Nancy Smith, who's an organic farmer who formerly served in the legislature. I'm afraid if I get started here, I'm going to miss half of you because the crowd is a star-studded crowd of people who care about farming, who are farmers, who are advocates for farming, who care about GMOs and raw milk and food sovereignty and a lot of things that people don't understand in many places but are critical to our food environment and our food safety and the kinds of things that we want to support today. So I just have to thank all of you for being here and for reminding everyone this is an important topic and a critical issue that we're here to discuss. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Aaron on my staff, who many of you have gotten to know, who did an incredible job of finding all of you and dragging you out of your offices and farms and everywhere else, and Jackie and Willie and others who I know are here with me today. I appreciate all your work in helping to organize this, and again to the Jordans for letting us use their farm. Like I said, I don't have to make the case anymore, and I have a feeling that a lot of you are here because you are already in agreement on this issue with me. I feel very fortunate to have spent pretty much all of my adult life here in the state of Maine and have a lot of roots in farming. Not only am I originally from Minnesota, it's a little known but embarrassing fact, that I am very proud of. I am the daughter of Scandinavian immigrants who came to Minnesota and to Iowa to be dairy farmers, so it's in my blood. Yeah, sure, you betcha, as we say. But I'm also a longtime farmer here in Maine. I came to Maine like a lot of people with a copy of Helen and Scott Nearing's Living the Good Life, that book in my hands, wanting to be a homesteader and a back-to-the-lander. Got to know Elliott Coleman as a student at College of the Atlantic, so I trained and learned on one of the best farmers in our state, and spent many years with my own small farm, starting a knitting business that sold products all over the country, and I'm lucky enough to be back in the farming business again. I own the Nebo Lodge, an inn and restaurant on North Haven, and the Turner Farm, a 200-year-old farm, which we've been bringing back to life again into the production levels that were once there in the 18 and 1900s, and are very proud to be able to do that. So we knew firsthand both what it is to be a farmer and also what it is to see the consumer demand today. People love to come to our farm stand, to our local farmers market, to our restaurant, and know that the food was grown locally, know that some of it's grown organically. People get to know what's actually in their food, and just as you heard earlier, it tastes great. People love the idea of eating fresh food. I can say, as an elected official and someone who's been working on these issues since the early 90s as a member of the House of Representatives, where I also served on the Agriculture Committee. This is one of those topics where you can get a very diverse group of people together of all ages, all political leanings, and people are still, particularly today, very interested in supporting local farmers for all the reasons you've already heard. It's good for our economy, it's good for jobs, it's good for the environment, but it's also good for our own health, whether it's about childhood obesity or the concerns we all have about making sure we're putting healthy foods in our bodies, and the interest we all have in being able to come to beautiful places like this and know where our food is produced. A lot of our bill also deals with kids and school lunches. I don't know if Kathy Gunst is here today, but we've been to visit a lot of elementary schools, middle schools, high schools around the state of Maine, where Kathy is one of those people who's been working with Michelle Obama's Let's Move program, a local chef who's brought some of her cooking techniques into the South Berwick Elementary School. We've met and visited in Longfellow Elementary School in Portland, sat down and had lunch with the kids there. Also, the Bonnie Eagle Middle School in southern Maine, where they have a passive solar greenhouse. And I love to tell people the story of visiting kids, learning how plants are growing, learning about growing techniques in the passive solar greenhouse, and then sitting with middle schoolers while they're eating their lunch of sautéed kale and garlic, and them telling me how wonderful it is, and thinking about how many adults say, oh, kids don't like fresh and healthy foods. They only want chicken nuggets and French fries. But the truth is, if a child sees where their food is growing, if they have a taste of something like a delicious carrot just pulled out of the ground, it makes a tremendous difference in how they feel about school lunch. And even more so, those kids go home and say to their parents, hey, can we go get some kale? Have you tried cooking some spinach? Why don't we grow a few carrots in the backyard? So it's healthy food habits all the way up the line. This is a huge and growing segment of our economy, and I think people in Maine particularly know that. We're 38th in per capita income, so we're not the wealthiest state in the country, but we are a foodie state, let's face it. People not only in Portland, but all over the state want to go to a restaurant and say, where was that grown locally? We care about the food that we eat. People like to buy at farmers markets. Your grandmother wants to make sure you've got some fresh green beans and Swiss chard on your plate when you have dinner. It's just the kind of thing that we care about in Maine, and this is where the real growth in this food industry is today. You know, retail sales of groceries have been mostly flat except for sustainably grown, organically grown, local produce. You see it in the markets where you shop. There are 7,000 farmers markets around our country. That's a 150% increase in the last decade. A recent study found that a small investment in farmers markets alone would increase jobs in our country by 10,000. So people know all of the big food industry giants want to buy up a small company that grows some sort of sustainable organic food. So we can see Walmart is now the largest retailer of food in our country, and the fact is they want to now become the largest retailer of organic food in our country. That tells you something not about their preferences or policies, but about what they've seen in the market. And our goal is to make sure that when stores like that decide to become big sellers of organic foods, they buy it locally. They don't set up 10,000 organic farms in China and have them shipped over for all of the reasons that we heard about earlier, the cost and transportation, the inability to know if your food is safe when it's produced in a foreign country, and the distance to market and losing the quality of this. So we're here today just to talk about the local Farms and Food Jobs Act. You can't introduce a bill in Congress today without saying jobs. But it's true. I mean, who doesn't know that there are many more jobs created when we have farms that are local? And not only does it create jobs in our communities, but it means that those families stay in our communities, that the land keeps open. In many rural towns in Maine, a concentration of sufficient farms means that there will be a tractor dealer or a small restaurant or a retail store that people can shop at. It's a huge difference when you can keep and grow the number of farms in our state. So it is a Jobs Act. There are over 30 provisions in this bill, and I won't get into all the nerdy details, but for anybody who would like to see our outline of the bill, we're happy to hand them out to you and frankly, to get your input on it. We've been lucky enough to work with many of you who are standing out there today, and wonderful friends of mine like Russell Libby, who've been working on these issues for years and years and years. And I do want to say, in the presence of Mafka, that not only is Russell one of my heroes, but one of my first jobs in Maine was working for the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. I was an early apprentice. I helped to start the apprenticeship program because I wanted to be a farm apprentice, and greatly appreciate that they continue in huge numbers today, both in the journeyman program, or journey person, or journey farmer, to continue to educate young people who want to be farming, and in the apprentice program, which allows a lot of young people who want to get a start on a farm to really dig in, get their hands dirty, and find out what it's all about. But we've been working on this bill for most of this past year. It does expand opportunities for local and regional farmers. It makes it easier for consumers to have access to healthy food. A few of the things I'll just sort of list. It makes it easier for farmers to obtain credit, whether it's a young person wanting to buy a farm that an older farmer is ready to turn over, whether it's a farmer themselves who wants to expand and enhance their facilities. Could be a small farm stand or a large farm stand. It could be hoop houses to increase the amount of production that they can have going into the colder months. It could be a small creamery if they're raising goats and they want to turn it into cheese or have their own dairy. It also has funding or assistance for more infrastructure. For those of you who are in the world of farming or who know people who are, or advocates, you know how often we say in the state of Maine, as our number of farms grow, we need better distribution networks. We don't have enough slaughterhouses. I can tell you, as a small farmer myself, my pigs went to the slaughterhouse just this morning, many of them. freezer camp, as we call it. But the fact is, we had to sign them up a long time in advance because there isn't sufficient capacity in Maine, and that's vital for small farmers who want to continue to grow the amount of product that they have and make sure that it's appropriately processable and eligible for sale. There are things in here to help consumers achieve greater access. For instance, making it possible for people to use their food stamp, their SNAP benefit cards at farmers markets, and make it easier for the farmers to sell to people of all income levels. That means if you're struggling in this economy but you want to still put healthy food on the table, there are ways for you to be able to do that. And as I said earlier, there are ways to help our schools serve more healthy food. Today you can get commodity funding for your school to buy all that food that comes in big cans from the Midwest. Well, we say you can divert some of that and not just spend it on things that you open from a can, heat up, and feed to our kids, but something that you buy locally. And also some assistance with those schools who no longer have the kitchen facilities, but who need the facilities to chop, to store, to steam the vegetables, whatever it is. Honestly, this is a bill full of things that are simple, common sense solutions, that are simple kinds of support that rural farmers, that New England farmers, that farmers across the country can use. It's a way to turn around our food policy from what it was in the past, as you heard Warren and others saying. You know, 30 more years ago, when Earl Butz was the Secretary of Agriculture under Richard Nixon, he was one of the first people who said, get big or get out. And that was the beginning of the end for the kind of agriculture that many of us grew up with or believed in. That farms should be local, that we should all know our farmers, that anybody who wants to grow up and take over the family farm or buy the family farm down the road ought to have that opportunity. Well, we want to start going back in that direction. There is no question that this is what consumers are interested in today, that young people want to be the business people in tomorrow's farm, that family farms want to stay in business and have a way to do it, and they need very little support. This is a way to divert our spending in this country from big commodity agriculture, subsidizing ethanol and corn and all the other things that we've trended into doing over the last 30 years, and bringing that money back home to states like Maine where it can be used like farmers and farms just like this one. So I thank you all very much for encouraging us in doing this, for being here to support us today, for giving us your good ideas as we work through the process, and working together with us in any way we can possibly work together. Thank you all for what many of you are doing in this movement as well, and for encouraging the very same things we're talking about today. And thank you to everybody up here for all of your help. Appreciate your being here. Well, we're in a perfect position. The average age of the farmer is going down in Maine, and the amount of land under cultivation is going up. So we've already proven that we're a state where people are interested in farming the land and where young people are interested in doing it. Markets, like farmers markets, get so busy in many communities they have to open a second farmers market. Restaurants are very interested in buying food locally. School departments want to buy more local food if they can afford it. So I think all the trends are going in the right directions. We have a lot of value-added businesses where people process their farm product into something else that can be sold in and out of Maine. So I just feel like we're in the right place, but a lot of people need just a little bit of support, training, better loan guarantees, access to more land. There's stuff we could be doing that would make it grow even faster and be a more critical part of our economy.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Sure, thanks for what you do.
All right,